Everyone, welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race NASCAR Cup Series, the Chicago Street Course Race Weekend. With me, we have Matthew Bro from Grid Network TV and editor of the Pitbox Press, Tanner Smith. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. Tanner, Matthew, good morning to you both, gentlemen. Overall, how are we doing this Sunday? Especially, we just saw a thrilling British Grand Prix wrap up.
Feeling pretty good. Looking forward to a pretty long but solid day of racing ahead.
Yeah, same thing. I think I was dragging this morning, and then I saw the podium of the third place finisher in Formula One. So now I'm all uppity. But yeah, I'm looking forward to today.
And of course, we'll have the full recap on Grid Live wrap up today. Now, before we jump into the Cup Series preview, we already had some action going on. I'm not talking about F1 or Indy next, which I know Ben and Brand will be talking about that scary crash that occurred. But at the Chicago Street Course, we have some exhibition laps with the ABB car as well as the Chevrolet and Ford EV cars. Of course, EV racing, we know Formula E has that currently right now. We haven't heard really a whole bunch of others talking about electric car racing, but NASCAR, they've partnered up with ABB to look into this venture. But I got to ask Tanner, when it comes to electric vehicle, where will that fit with the current NASCAR landscape where you got Cup, Xfinity, trucks, ARCA?
So I think as far as the current landscape is concerned, I would not prefer it to replace the Xfinity series as some people have posited, but I would like to see a series built for it, kind of like we did with the Craftsman Truck Series just 30 short years ago. It's kind of insane to think that that series hasn't just been around the whole time. But over the last 30 years, the Truck Series has definitely garnered a good bit of attention for, hosting its different brands and giving them a great platform. And I think that with crossovers becoming such a large part of American car culture in today's, era of time, I would say that it would be really advantageous for NASCAR if they wanted to jump into the crossover and the electric market. Right now would be an extremely advantageous time to do so. And I think I can speak for a lot of people in saying that who doesn't want more racing? I don't care if it doesn't make the same sounds as, an internal combustion engine. I care that the cars go fast and that they race hard and that there's contact. And believe me, with a car the size of a crossover, there's definitely going to be some contact and high speeds. So I would really enjoy seeing something like that in the next 3 to 5 years, which is probably about when NASCAR would be trying to get something like that off the ground. So yeah, would be cool to see a whole new racing series, but please keep Xfinity.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been pro EV in terms of racing. I think Formula E is such a fascinating concept, not even just from the racing standpoint, but from the technology standpoint. And I think what NASCAR was able to do today, I think it was David Reagan, Rajah Caruth, and Brent Cruz were all out there doing that exhibition and looking on social media, specifically X or Twitter right now, usually filled with hate and disgusting things. But in terms of the EV stuff, a lot of positives from the people that were at the track. And these are a lot of people that maybe Chicago Street Course, it's a very new thing. So a lot of these people probably, maybe this is their first race, and seeing that NASCAR is willing to adapt and bring in new people by doing something like this, I think it's awesome. And like Tanner said, Xfinity Series is the best series in NASCAR, I think, by far. And if they were to touch that, I would be heartbroken. As much as I want an EV type of series, whether it's a fourth, I'm not going to say it can replace ARCA because it shouldn't. If they have the fifth, like a fifth series, I think it would truly be awesome. And the global landscape that Formula E has, viewership-wise, I think, like if you do world, not just the United States of America, I think it was up there in the top 4 or 5, Formula E was in ratings in terms of viewership. While NASCAR kind of, besides their other series, like the NASCAR Cup Series and the stuff in the USA, specifically, it doesn't really reach as far out as Formula E does come into the United States. So I think it's just truly, it's an awesome thing. It can't really replace anything. I think that's where this information is getting misconstrued, is a lot of the older fan base, the ones that have stuck around through the development of the truck series and stuff, think it's going to be replacing something, but it really would not. So as long as they can hit that in the marketing, saying this would be a completely new thing and the people will listen and believe them, I think we're in for something awesome in the next 4 or 5 years, like Tanner had said.
Yeah, I think it could be a great addition, not a replacement for any of the series, and especially as we have these road courses, I think include this electric car series in each of those, the short tracks. Considering how electric cars have to regenerate power, I'm really curious how they'll work on some of the 1.5 mile ovals, but I think that's a good start for the first year. Have it along with the Cup Series and go from there. Now, of course, when it comes to car racing and everything, we are very excited to just see more and more, and we'll be following more right here on the Grid Network. So be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs. For those of you trying to watch on Facebook, they claim we're trying to violate copyright infringements. Of course, we don't have none of that. So unfortunately, it is not on the air. It's going to be something me and Mr. Facebook will be talking about after the show. Meantime, let's get started with the show. Third annual Chicago street race, and possibly the last for quite some time. Heavy rumors of San Diego coming into the picture next year with their street race. One driver who's going to be missing out the Chicago street course, of course, has to be Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane Van Gisbergen won the first year of this race. Last year, he got taken out, no fault of his own. Chase Briscoe lost control, crashed into him at the beginning of stage 2. Now he's on the pole for this race. He's coming off Mexico. If he gets this win, crazy to say, 2 wins in the last 4 races. Starting with you, Matt. Is SVG the sure favorite to win this weekend? DraftKings have him at plus 125. They're very confident he's going to get it.
Yeah, you know how damn good you have to be in motorsport to have nearly a minus betting odds? Like, that's how good Shane Van Gisbergen is at this place. So I think for sure he's the favorite to win. And it's going to be funny. We talked about, I think it was Tanner and I too, and you as well, Joe, it's like, would you take like Harvick at Phoenix? Would you take Jimmy Johnson at Dover, Denny Hamlin at Pocono? Can you put SVG at Chicago in the conversation? I mean, if Briscoe doesn't make an error last year, I mean, SVG could already have 3 Cup wins under his belt at this point. So it's truly amazing what just coming over from Australia, New Zealand, and just being able to do what he's done. And then even in the Xfinity series, he's a perfect 1 for 1, I believe, or 2 for 2. I'm sorry. And then obviously Cup, he's 1 for 2. He very likely could be 2 for 3 after today. It's just amazing what he's been able to do. And I truly hope Will Brown has some success as well today, also coming over from Red Bull Ampel Racing to see what he can do. But in terms of Chicago street race, I'm kind of sad to see that this is likely the last time, just because what it's been able to do, not only for motorsport, NASCAR specifically, going on a street course, bringing that new audience. The economy of Chicago specifically has shown huge jumps during this time of year, usually late June, early July. And it'd be awesome. Granted, sure, Chicagoland, we all joke. Carson Osvar said multiple times that it's coming back. That's something, as much as I want Chicagoland, I guess, back in terms of what NASCAR is good at, the product is the intermediates and stuff. However, I don't want a Chicagoland to replace a Chicago street race. I don't like that switch. I think it would be cool to see a San Diego street race, but then NASCAR, which tries so hard to appeal to the West Coast, consistently, whether it's on the late model side of things and even up into NASCAR, all the tracks are dying out there. You know, Fontana, they destroyed, still hasn't been rebuilt into the short track in the last 2 years. And then Irwindale, Saugus, all these other speedways are shutting down there. So now you're going to bring a street race there. It's just like, you got to figure out what you want with that. So whether it's Philadelphia too, I know Ben would love that. I know we talked in the chat about that, but it would be awesome to see another street race. It does suck. I really wish it would be Chicago. I live in New York State, so that would be cool. I probably wouldn't go to New York City, though, to see that. But we'll see what happens. But, yes, SVG is the sure favorite to win, and then he will continue to be the sure favorite, and we'll have a pup ride as long as the street race is on the schedule.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Shane Van Gisbergen has to be the surefire favorite for today. I mean, the guy has a 75% winning percentage in races he's entered at this track, which means coming into today, he has won 3 of the 5 total events that have been run prior to the green flag this afternoon. And of those, he lost because he didn't enter in the 2023 Xfinity Series race, and last year because Chase Briscoe slid into him during a deluge and knocked him out of the race. Now, I do think it's important to note that last year Justin Haley signed a contract with Spire that could have translated into a Hendrick Motorsports contract had certain things happened. And it's kind of interesting now to look back and think, wow, at this point last year, had Chase Briscoe not slid into SVG's Saucy Nugs car and taken him out of the event, we could be talking about Justin Haley, the driver of the number 48 Ally Chevrolet. And because of that one slip up by Chase Briscoe, we're talking about SVG being in this race still with a third Trackhouse car. And we have Alex Bowman looking to defend his title at this race in the number 48 Ally Chevrolet, while Justin Haley continues to languish in points. So, yeah, SVG has to be the surefire favorite today going into Chicago. The guy has been unreal fast here. I mean, look at yesterday's qualifying session. He put one in the low 30s. Chase Briscoe puts a 10th on him. And then the very next lap, Shane puts on another lap that's 0.6 faster and gets him under the minute-and-a-half bracket for the first time all weekend. So you've definitely got to look for that 88 car to be the one up front at the end of the day. And, yeah, I think you'd be kind of silly to, to suggest anybody else is going to win this race.
Yeah, I think once we get to pick a winner, it's going to be, I think, a sweep of who we all think is going to win.
It might be.
It might be the same for the IndyCar race too, potentially. We'll see. Because SVG, the sure easy favorite for this race weekend. But one of the unique things, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, was if he is to get this win, that'll be 2 race wins in the last 4 races. Of course, Mexico City, but then you had 2 ovals. Here we are again. And when you look at the playoff, how interesting of a dynamic this would be, because your drivers with multiple wins, all of them 3 wins each. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell. Shane Van Gisbergen, if he was to get win number 2 of the season today at Chicago, he's going to be up there ahead of the drivers like William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. But he's 32nd in the point standings as we are approaching entering the Chicago race weekend. Additionally, we have Sonoma, Watkins Glen, tracks he knows he could win at. He's done it at Sonoma with the Xfinity Series, Watkins Glen, the bus stop. That ruined his opportunity now to win, but he knows he can get that done. So, Tanner, how interesting of a dynamic would it be to have a driver that far down in the points, but potentially the 4th highest in the playoffs based on wins, thanks to these road course events?
I definitely think it'd be an interesting dynamic for sure. I mean, you have a guy that for, I would say, 16 of the 19 races we've had so far has not been a factor whatsoever. Having, himself a great season on just the right and left turns. And thankfully, because of this system, whether you like it or love it, or you hate it, it does give drivers like Shane Van Gisbergen a chance to contend for a title, assuming he wins one of the races. And seeing as he's already done that, it doesn't really matter where he is in points because of NASCAR's current rules. So, yeah, I find it very odd that someone that's not even participating in the in-season tournament because of how low in points they were is going to perhaps become one of the winningest drivers on the tour by the end of the regular season. In fact, I mean, it's entirely possible that Shane goes out there and takes the wins lead before the regular season's up. I mean, you've got Sonoma, where I don't think he did a race in Cup last year, interestingly enough. But I have no doubt, based on his Xfinity Series race last year, that he would have any struggles adapting to that course in a Cup car and going out and winning that one. And you have Watkins Glen, where he was probably a mile and a half short of winning that race prior to clipping the wall on the inside of the bus stop. So, yeah, I do find it interesting that this dynamic is kind of developing for Shane Van Gisbergen, but I mean, I think it's what we all expected when he took this ride up in Cup, that, you know, he's only really there to try to make the playoffs and continue to improve on ovals until he's become like a consistent top 10 guy. But as we saw with drivers that are debatably more talented than him, and, you know, Juan Pablo Montoya in particular, winning an oval race is no easy task when you have literally not done that your whole life. I mean, you listen to Daniel Suarez on Dale Jr.'s podcast. I guess that would have been 2 weeks ago now. Daniel didn't start oval racing until he was nearly 17 years old. And he said that it has been a massive detriment to his development in NASCAR because he had to learn so much that guys like Connor Zillich, guys like Corey Heim learn at such a young age because they just had more access to it here in America. And, I mean, you can definitely see those same struggles in Shane Van Gisbergen when he is running in, like, 23rd, 24th on an oval, because it's not easy. Like, and especially in this car that has so many issues. But we're not going to get into that today. So, yeah, I do find this dynamic interesting with SVG, but at the end of the day, the system is kind of what provides it, and it'll be more interesting to see how well he advances through the round of 16 here in a couple of months, and that's why he needs to start stacking up the playoff points now.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing Tanner mentioned too was Sonoma. I believe it was because SVG did the tire test, so they didn't allow him to compete in the Cup race, which robbed us of a Cam Waters, Will Brown, and SVG Sonoma race. I am still mad about that, but clearly I'll shut up about that. I was because that would have been so awesome bringing 3 supercars drivers over. Well, he was in Xfinity at the time, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it's the dynamic. It's quite interesting, and I really agree with Tanner. It's quite possible that SVG could be tied or even take the regular season wins lead by the end of the regular season, just by whether today he wins or not. At Chicago, you have Sonoma and Watkins Glen, which I was at the Watkins Glen race. The crowd was quite happy to see Buescher win, but they were also very happy when SVG was putting on a show as well. So it'll be interesting. And then two major points I want to make. One is, it seemed like Kyle Busch was way down in the points, except the only difference was in 2015 when he won the championship was obviously because of injury and missing so many races. But that was a big reason why he got in. He won 4 or 5 regular. He won a lot of regular season races that year, like a couple in a row too. So it won't be the first time we'll see someone this far down, and then obviously Harrison Burton too last year. But it's also an interesting thing too, because you want to touch on the playoffs and 16 drivers make it. The rule is you win and you're in. It is quite possible we get 16 different race winners before the regular season ends. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the standings right here, Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman, and Bubba Wallace. Those are 4 drivers I think can truly win a race in the next however many are left, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. And 3 of those guys, even I guess you could throw Bubba in this in the sense where Bubba was fastest in practice before he shunted it twice. But Tyler Reddick's won on road course. Chris Buescher is arguably the best road course racer, not named Shane Van Gisbergen. And Alex Bowman's won here. So any of them can really win too. So if one of them win here today, that's another spot that's going to be eliminated. But you look at the tiebreaker, which we've never had it happen before. It's if you win, if there's 16 different winners, or if there's 17 different winners, which hasn't happened, but I really think it will. The driver with either the least amount of the tiebreaker goes to, okay, so who's locked in now? Well, it would be Larson, Hamlin, and Bell. They've all won more than once, so they're locked in. if Shane Van Gisbergen wins today and we have 4 or 5 different winners the rest of the races, he will still be locked in on the idea that he has more than one victory. So he's going to be in, I think, regardless of what happens. So it's really just a fascinating thing with this winning you're in. Or are they going to add a 17th driver? No, they wouldn't do that. They did before, way back when, but for the 12 to 13. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see the driver who ends up probably at best 27th in points going to have 2 or 3 wins likely and being in the playoffs. And Shane Van Gisbergen, I hate to say it, if 4 drivers have a lot of bad luck in that first round of the playoffs, which I'm looking now, it's Darlington, which is his favorite oval, WWT, World, so Gateway, and then Bristol. If he can get through that round, and he can go and win the Roval, Shane Van Gisbergen can easily be in the round of 8, which is just unfathomable to my mind. We thought like Allmendinger, I think, really could have possibly done it as well the year he won, but he wasn't full-time in Cup. So, yeah, that's my long point. I apologize. But if SVG has a great first round and 4 other guys don't, and if he keeps racking up these playoff points, we could see SVG in the round of 8. That would shock some people.
And that's – go ahead, Tanner.
I was going to say, this has become the SVG pre-show.
The ratings.
That's the thing. I mean, we've seen in Darlington, a lot of playoff drivers have trouble. If you're not one driver with a clean race and you can point your way in, especially with multiple wins, you're sitting pretty. Now, of course, we're talking a lot about SVG. There's another road course ace on the front row with him, Michael McDowell, looking for his first win. That could be a spoiler as well, too. Something big for them, Spire. Behind him, you got a very interesting top 10, with the only past winner this year being Chase Briscoe. Of course, Chase Briscoe got that win not too long ago. Pocono, SVG, of course, Mexico City. Then you have the defending race winner, Alex Bowman, qualified length, but it's going to be starting towards the back. We'll get a little bit into that later on. Joey Logano, 12. So the Penske, Hendrick Motorsports, not exactly having that great of a start to the weekend. But as I mentioned, Alex Bowman and all the Hendrick Motorsports drivers. So Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron didn't even get a lap in, really just disastrous. They're all going to be towards the back, and we have the potential for rain this afternoon. The forecast, according to AccuWeather, shows a good chance of rain when it comes to it, potentially thunder, lightning, which, of course, that might mean a delay. Just be unfortunate, considering it seems every year we have weather impacting this event. And, of course, the winners of both events, granted, weather has been part of it, have both come from the top 10. So, Matt, is this a setup for a very likely first-time winner of 2025, or perhaps even a first career win for a driver in the top 10?
I think yes, but the issue is SVG is just the rain doesn't matter either. So if that was a disadvantage, but it's not, it never has been for him. But yeah, I really do think it sets up because you look at the top 10. Michael McDowell, for a first-time win this year, he was one of the fastest, if not the fastest overall average in practice. So that could be a threat. Carson Hocevar is quietly doing a lot better on road courses. I was there at Watkins Glen when he finished 3rd behind Buescher and SVG. Well, SVG and then Buescher. And then you got guys, Reddick, who's been the best driver without a win now that Chase Elliott's won. So he's a threat here. He's one of the best road course racers in the next gen era. He's got 3 wins, I believe, which is the most until SVG today, probably. But then Kyle Busch is another driver who I think a lot of people just want to see him win because it's just when he's one of the best drivers in the history of the sport. He's the only one of 3 drivers with a top 10 finish at Chicago in all 2 races here. So that's not a lot, but you know what I mean? So it would be interesting for a first-time winner there. Ryan Preece has had pace all year. He's starting 7th. Chris Buescher has had significant pace, and I truly believe if Buescher makes the playoffs, he can make a deep run into at least a round of 8. I just think when Buescher gets hot, he gets really hot, and I think we've seen it the last couple weeks. And then I'm not going to talk about 10th place. I don't think Austin Dillon is really going to do much, no offense. But that kid in 9th, that young kid in 9th, starting 9th, I keep talking about him. That's why you guys are laughing.
That young kid. Isn't he older than you?
I don't think so. I'm
No?
24.
Okay.
So I think unfortunately I can
Y'all
say
were in diapers together for sure.
Oh yeah, I think he's got me by. I think he was born in 02. I was born in 01. So
Okay.
that was my youth here. But that kid, that's what I'm going to call him. He's finished third. He's finished ninth. He has the lowest, tied for the lowest average finish here, besides Joey Hand, who finished fourth, which that was remarkable in that stage 60 car last year. But him and McDowell, the kid I'm referring to is obviously Ty Gibbs. I really think he's got, this is his second best chance. I think Mexico was his best chance, but I really think he has a legitimate shot to get it done for a first career win. And it kind of would be really awesome to see, just because he's another guy who's really far back in points. I'm going to check the standings right now to show that Ty Gibbs is actually 24th in the standings, behind John Hunter Nemechek, which I know we'll talk about him too. That's not good for Ty Gibbs in that Joe Gibbs equipment. But if he can be one of those guys to get a win, I really think this could be the day. But yeah, so I think, like with Joe's question, does this set up a likely first-time winner? Only if something goes wrong with SVG. But we did see in the Xfinity race, Zilich starting in the back, going up to second, and could have possibly won if he had blocked SVG. But I think SVG honestly would have sent him into the first corner there. But you got some of the best road course racers in the sport, with Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron's one of the best. They're all starting in the back, so they got to be patient, work their way up. That gives these guys time up front to hopefully, if it stays green, they'll be lucky. But rain's coming. Rain can show anything, as you saw today in Formula One with the top three. Two of them were expected, but the other one wasn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think it definitely sets up a potential first-time winner this year, and potentially there's two guys looking for their first career wins that are very notable on that list. Or three actually, Ryan Preece as well. So we'll see what happens. I'll drink my Mountain Dew while Tanner answers the question.
So looking here at the top 10, I'll tell you the drivers that are in this and are not in this. So Shane Van Gisbergen, he's obviously in this. Michael McDowell, this might come as a surprise to many. I don't think he's going to do too well today. Don't know why, just he brings a very bad energy to these kinds of races that tends to do him no favors. So I'm just going to assume that he's going to do something that gets him into trouble, or his team makes a strategy gaffe that he is unable to recover from. His teammate, Carson Hocevar, I think he's in this race. I actually think that he has a very solid chance to go out there and get a top 5, maybe even win if something breaks the right way for him. Tyler Reddick, definitely in this. I think that he wants to kind of get his, groove back this season. Hasn't won yet this year, and it would be a monumental win after he, obviously lost last year's race in pretty devastating fashion, mowing Alex Bowman down over the last few laps and unfortunately clipping the inside wall at, I believe, the inside of turn 5. And it completely ruined his final lap and lost him the race. Chase Briscoe, I think we kind of saw last year what he is capable of doing on this course when it's wet, so I'm definitely not sticking with him as a contender in this event. Kyle Busch, I think everybody not only would love to see Kyle Busch win, but in the Slurpee car, it'd be perfect. It'd be a match made in heaven. I think everybody would love to see that. So definitely think he's got a chance. Ryan Preece, no shot. Absolutely no shot. Chris Buescher, he'll get a top 10, but no shot at the W today. Ty Gibbs, I think he's got a chance, but it kind of goes back to his issues at Mexico. Can he actually use his racecraft to make passes? And I don't have any evidence to suggest he does. So I'm not really going to give him much of a shot today. He might have a good finish, but I don't think he's going to contend like he did at Mexico. And Austin Dillon, no, absolutely not. So just to recap here, we got Hocevar, I think, has a chance to win his very first race. Gibbs has an outside shot to win his first race. And as for guys that have won before but haven't won this year, Reddick and Kyle Busch are my top contenders outside of Shane Van Gisbergen, which I think he's probably going to win. So all of this talk is probably moot anyway.
Now, The two winners that I mentioned of this event have come from the top 10. So a quick follow-up, Tanner, starting with you. The starting outside the top 10 means you have a big setback to get the win, or do you think somebody from outside the top 10 has a reasonable shot at the win?
I think that it's entirely possible someone from outside the top 10 gets up there and contends. I mean, you have someone like AJ Allmendinger who is going to move up 2 spots because of Bowman and Larson moving to the back. So that'll get him a little bit closer. Joey Logano is always, extremely unpredictable, especially in a road course race. You never really know what you're going to get out of him. He might go out there and light the world on fire today. He might go out there and light up a tire barrier. You don't really know. You do have some pretty solid drivers at this course, though, starting towards the back. Denny Hamlin, I believe, got the very first pole here back in 2023. Bubba Wallace was fastest in practice yesterday, but unfortunately just couldn't get a clean lap in, and unfortunately fell back to 37th. William Byron was looking to be a pretty quick car in practice, and now they're in a backup because I don't know exactly what he intended to do there coming out of turn 10, but he found himself in the wall with like minutes to spare in practice and completely botched his primary. So I don't think he'll do too well today. Might get some stage points. Chase Elliott, I think he's proven here back in 23 that he can come from the back and contend. But I mean, if we're looking 20th on back, those are the only drivers, Wallace, maybe Byron, maybe Elliott, maybe Hamlin, that have a chance. But I'm really interested in that like 11th to 20th range. I think there is some really good speed in that group. I mean, Christopher Bell dominated that first race here until he started sliding into the tires. You have Kyle Larson. Granted, he's not going to start there, but I mean, he's always a threat anywhere we go. As I mentioned, AJ Allmendinger. Ryan Blaney is a very solid driver that takes care of his equipment, and if he finds himself up front, I have a feeling he could go out there and do something. Will Brown, obviously coming over from Australian Supercars. We love to see that moonlighting over here. I think that if he gets in a good spot towards the end of the race, once he's, a little bit more acclimated in the car, I think he'll have a pretty good shot. And Daniel Suarez is very hungry for a W right now and looked to be pretty strong last year before Alex Bowman wrecked Bubba Wallace right in front of him and ended both of their races, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a death sentence to start outside of the top 10. And I feel like, that 2 races is an extremely shallow sample size to say, hey, you're screwed if you finish less than 10 or qualify less than 10th. So hopefully we'll have some dry conditions here to start the race. It looks like, based on the AccuWeather reports I've been reading practically every time I'm off camera, that it looks like we're going to have a pretty dry start of the race, maybe the first 2 stages as a whole, but stage 3 could be where it gets rather hairy. So buckle up, folks.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful answer from Tanner there. I think everything he just said is really what I would say in that sense, where you have some of the best guys back there, whether it's like Elliott, Byron, Larson starting in the back now, even Bubba, who hasn't been known for road course. Remember, he qualified second at COTA and led. I think he won one of the stages or was up there in the top 2. So he's been doing a lot better as well. But like Tanner had said, besides them, I don't really know who I would pick to really come through. I think Ross Chastain starting 22nd. I think he could be a threat from 20th on back, and now I think he's probably even starting in the top 20 with everyone going to the back. Ryan Blaney as well, I'm going back to front, is just one of the best drivers in the sport, if not the best driver in the sport. So he can really do well anywhere. Will Brown, I wish there was more hype about him. I think Will Brown has been putting on a clinic. Well, I wish Brock Feeney got the ride. I'm so mad. I wish I had a lot of money because then I would have helped that out, get Brock Feeney over here, whether it's an Xfinity or Cup car. But unfortunately, I don't make that much money. I don't think anyone really does, except the CEOs of these companies. But that's another conversation. But Will Brown, I wish this colleague equipment was what SVG had last year and Allmendinger had the previous year. I don't know if it is. in terms of the road course setup. But when you have Will Brown and Allmendinger on any team together, that's going to be a fascinating show to see. I hope he has better luck than Jack Perkins did in the Xfinity race, which I know Ben and Brandon will touch on that tomorrow. But looking at that too, Suarez needs a win. He seemed pretty obviously the big news that came out with him not returning to Trackhouse Racing, a team that pretty much started because of him and with Pitbull's connection and stuff. So that sucks. I know we might briefly touch on that too. I think he's won at Sonoma. I mean, this guy's a great road course driver too. I think there are a couple Cup teams in mind that don't have a road course ace that could possibly go after Shane, or I almost called him Shane Van Suarez, Daniel Suarez. I'm losing it, guys. But another guy too, Shane Van Suarez, yes. Another guy who I really think could be a threat for a win who's outside the top 10 here is Christopher Bell. And my dad and I were in a friends and family league. Today I have Ty Gibbs winning. I won't pick a winner, though. I guess I'm going to keep even with Kobe, let him continue to beat me after I blew that huge lead. But that's another conversation, too. But my dad, I told him to pick Bell because I think Christopher Bell's a legitimate threat on road courses. I think he's a legitimate threat on all 36 races, especially like Tanner had mentioned, was doing really well in the first one, then started slipping and sliding. Last year, didn't have the best luck, but he still ended up pretty well. And then just the last 3 road course races, Christopher Bell's worst race is second place. And that's just because SVG exists, really. And then obviously winning Coda as well. So I think Christopher Bell is going to be a legitimate threat. And he showed even the Xfinity race at Mexico City. If he in Sam Hunt equipment that never won, he was a legitimate threat there until obviously mechanical issues. So those are the guys I think it's reasonable to say someone outside the top 10 wins, unless only if Shane Van Gisbergen has something go wrong. So
yeah, Shane Van Gisbergen, I think he runs his own race. He's going to be untouchable unless we see something with that car just not right and the others are able to catch up. Outside the top 10, I feel those are a lot of contenders, and flipping the stages could be a benefit for them, especially if SVG stays out, try to gain that track position. A couple of ways for it, but I think at the end of the day, that's just going to be really hard for folks to get around. And in NASCAR, I feel like most times you can win in just about any position. Now, of course, the back row originally featured Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, 39th, 40th, respectively. But, of course, with the Hendrick Motorsports drivers all going towards the back, they're going to be further back. That changing up the order. Chase Elliott, of course, he won at Atlanta, so he advanced to that second round of the in-season bracket tournament, which most everyone got the bracket busted last weekend. John Hunter Nemechek is against Chase Elliott, and he is starting 25th. Now has moved up because of some of those position changes. So, Matt, can John Hunter Nemechek deliver the next big upset and eliminate Chase Elliott in the bracket challenge?
I think it's possible. Do I think it'll happen? Hopefully not, because I have Chase Elliott winning the bracket. That was about the only thing I got right on that damn thing. I think every single person that participated had their bracket busted, which is absolutely absurd. But one thing I will say, in all the ones I got wrong, which there were a hell of a lot of them, like my round would be Hamlin versus Busch. That didn't happen. So that was another example. But actually, the one thing I had correct was John Hunter Nemechek versus Chase Elliott. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I think John Hunter Nemechek is having a career year, and I want to apologize to him because I definitely have crapped on him a lot. And he's one of the first interviews I've ever done. So I appreciate him as a person, as a driver. Just the equipment I didn't think he'd be doing as well. And he really has shown that John Hunter Nemechek, I think there's a reason why he's up here. And I think he's done a really decent job. He's been toe-to-toe with Eric Jones, who I think Eric Jones, I wish he had better equipment because I think Eric Jones could be a race winner every single year in the sport. So it's interesting. I'm just trying to look at the standings. Yeah, John Hunter Nemechek is 23rd in the points. Eric Jones has actually moved up to 16th because he's been on an absolute heater where he scored the 4th most points of any driver in the sport in the last couple of weeks. So shout out to Eric Jones as well. But I think if Chase Elliott has a bad race, it happens. Denny Hamlin got wrecked. I think John Hunter Nemechek could be a real upset just by how good he's already a career top 5s, career top 10s this season. I think if he has another top 10 this year, which I wrote about in my story, gridnetworktv.com, that if John Hunter Nemechek gets another top 10 this season, it will match his career total heading into this season. So I believe he had 7, and he's on pace to already have 7 or 8 this year or something like that. Those numbers are, I don't know if they're true or not, but it's just to show he's been doing great. So yeah, I think he can do it. It's one of those things. Can he do it? Yeah, I mean anyone can do anything in this sport. So, but do I think it's likely? Not really. John Hunter Nemechek has even told us on Grid when I did the interview with you, Joe, a couple of years ago when he was in Xfinity kicking butt. He said that just road courses really aren't something he's been the best at. So I think Chase Elliott being one of the best at it, I think it's likely that Chase moves on. And for my bracket's sake, let's hope, right?
I just want to say something that harkens back to our preseason predictions, that I was one of the first people on this program to mention that Legacy Motor Club might have a turnaround season, and nobody believed me. Well, look who's shining now. All of that to say, yeah, John Hunter Nemechek absolutely has an opportunity to take down Chase Elliott today. And Chase Elliott, I want to say something to you, sir. You come on the Prime window with your Prime sponsorship, and you get on that commercial with Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte, and you get on there and be like, somebody say road course. Come on, dude. You haven't won on a road course in the next gen car. You can't be saying stuff like that until you actually go out there and do it. No offense, but you got to go out there and actually get a W, man. With all that to say, I do think Elliott has, as I mentioned back in 2023, he has come from the back at this track, even in a backup car back in 2023 after wrecking into the Congress Plaza section. But yeah, I think that John Hunter Nemechek, as much as people like to underrate him, I think that he's had an exceptional season, especially on the road courses. So to say that he doesn't have a shot to knock Chase Elliott off today is definitely a bit misguided. I think that John Hunter Nemechek, when given good equipment at this facility, he did finish second in 2023 in a very truncated event. But even then, I feel like if you give John Hunter Nemechek half of a race car, he tends to go out there and compete and perform. So given that he isn't going to start too great today, I think that he can make his way up through the field. It'll be a real challenge to hold off someone like Chase Elliott, obviously starting towards the back with all of his teammates. But at the same time, we've seen John Hunter be able to parlay a bad starting position into a good finish. And I think that today could just be another in a long line of John Hunter Nemechek great performances that we've had this year. I mean, what was it? Back-to-back sixth-place finishes at Mexico and Pocono. I mean, the guy has had speed at a lot of different types of facilities, and honestly, it's been really nice to see a turnaround for that Legacy Motor Club team. They came into the year after a tremendously bad 2024, and they hired a lot of people and got a lot of doubts from people in the media, and they've kind of shoved all those doubts back in everybody's faces and entered playoff contention, and it's been really nice to see. I like to see a team that bet on itself by not accepting any sort of technical alliance help coming into the year, and they've parlayed it into an immense amount of success.
Yeah, they've been very successful overall, looking really good. John Hunter Nemechek's team, yeah, I think they're going to eliminate Chase Elliott. I just think run your own race. Let's see what happens. 41 drivers attempted the field. So 40 got in. Somebody had to go home, and that was Corey Heim. Time was not good enough. Knocked out by Catherine Legg and going home while Catherine Legg showing to start 33rd, but of course going to be moving up a couple of spots with some of those changes on the grid. Tam, were you surprised by this result, and is this a setback at all for Heim's progress to get into Cup Series?
Honestly, based on the amount of talent and the talent within the drivers that wrecked their cars yesterday, I really wasn't all that surprised. I mean, you had Byron Catherine Legg smashed the wall a couple times herself. You had Chase Elliott. You had, God, there was just so many drivers that had so many problems yesterday that really, to me, it wasn't all that surprising that someone with Heim's inexperience, found themselves in the wall and ended up terminally damaging the car. I was surprised by Josh Bilicki setting a fast enough lap in the 66 car to get that vehicle in the race. But as far as Catherine Legg getting in the race, I thought it was going to be between her and Bilicki, but with Heim's mistake, it kind of opened the door for both of them to make the race, and that's what we ended up with. As far as it setting back Heim's development, I wouldn't go that far. I actually think that something like this is, a potential motivational factor for him going forward. This stuff in Cup Series competition is just not really that easy. So even if you're in great equipment like you are at 2311. So I actually think that this is a good learning opportunity for Corey Heim. And I feel like this will only be something that helps him going forward, even though right now on his birthday weekend of all times, it's certainly not going to feel that way. I feel like at the end of the day, this is something that's going to help push him forward rather than hold him back.
And it seems like we may have just lost Matt on the stream. So once Matt gets back, we'll allow him to respond back as well, too, when it comes to Corey Heim, because I know he's been following all the drivers from the cars, late model series, all over. Now,
his birthday was yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
not a good birthday.
On the birthday, you miss out on qualifying. Oof.
Yeah, not a good birthday for him.
Russian.
Take a quick moment to welcome everyone in the chat room. Hello, John Play Z14. Welcome from, looks like you're watching over at Twitch. And then Marbug, hello. I know some folks were asking the question about the streaming options for this race. Of course, check with NASCAR.com. Link in the chat room as well, too, for streaming options, as well as your local cable TV provider. Overall, when it comes to this, I see we're going to be having some great racing at this event. It's a challenging course. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with this. With that said, it sounds like Matt Bro is having some internet issues. So let's go ahead. Internet gremlins, they will always strike. And one of the big things, of course, when it comes to the internet live streaming, way it goes. There's some like. Go ahead and start with. First of all, less for each question, and we encourage everyone in the chat room as well. Share your answer, starting with Will Brown, starting 19th. Is he likely to finish in the top 20, top 10, or top 5?
I'd say most likely top 10, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he got top 5.
I'm going to go with top 10. Top 5, especially if we get the rain, but I'm sticking with top 10. And looks like Matthew is just joining us right in time. Matthew, you're in time for the lightning round. First question was, Will Brown, top 20, top 10, or top 5 finish?
Will Brown, I'm sorry about the internet. It's not internet, it's actually Will Brown top 10.
You got Will Brown top 10. Hocevar versus Tyler Reddick in the bracket challenge, both starting in the top 10. Who's going to advance Tanner?
Between those two, I'm going with Tyler Reddick.
Sorry, Tyler Reddick.
I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick as well. When it comes to both RCR drivers in the top 10, where will they finish? Will we have 2 in the top 10, 1, or none? Tanner, starting with you.
I'm going to say Kyle Busch can finish top 10, but I think it's more likely that neither of them finish top 10.
I'm going to 1, Kyle Busch.
I'm going to go none in the top 10. We have 2 of the 3 RFK drivers in the top 10. Keselowski, he is the one out 15th. Can his teammates help the 6th by sharing notes from qualifying? Tanner, do you think that is significant to help him get up there?
No. Brad Keselowski has been awful on road courses in the next gen, so no.
I don't think it'll help him either.
I don't think it's going to help him either as well. Wendy's. First year, they saw Gregson on the wall too many times in 2023. 2024, SVG crashed out while leading. They did not return 2025 with a full car sponsorship. So which fast food car will finish ahead? Will it be Bubba Wallace and McDonald's or Arby's with Cody Ware? Matt, starting with you.
You guys know my absolute loyalty to Arby's. I love Arby's with all my heart. My first ever job, I worked there 5.5 years. However, it's 100% think it's going to be McDonald's and Bubba Wallace are going to finish ahead of Cody Ware and Arby's. So no offense to Arby's, I'm still very loyal to you, but it's going to be Bubba and McDonald's.
You'd think the curly fries would have a little bit of an advantage on the right and left turns, but I think it'll be the fry box of Bubba Wallace going up and taking the fast food crown, even though Burger King is not in this race.
I think it's going to be Bubba Wallace as well. And then Stone Cold Custard won here in the 2023 Xfinity Series race weekend. Can he score a top 10 finish? Tanner, your thoughts on Stone Cold Custard?
Trying to see where he's starting today. Starting outside the top 20, I'm going to say probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Same on my end. Can he? Yes. Will he? Probably not. But he was good at Mexico City.
He was good at Mexico City. I just think with the mayhem of this race, I think he's going to not finish in the top 10. That is my prediction for Stone Cold Custard in this race. And that was our lightning now. Now, Matt, I know just as Tanner was wrapping up his question about Corey Heim, that's when it gave way. I know you follow Corey Heim's career quite a lot. Did you have thoughts on Corey Heim missing out on this race?
Yeah, so sorry if my mic still sucks and all, so I'll try to get through it quick. Heim, it shocked me a lot, honestly. I'm so happy for Catherine Legg, don't get me wrong. And I truly believe Corey Heim, who is the best road course driver in the truck series, obviously he's the first one to ever win 3 in a row. I think that's shocking. But then you look at stuff, I believe Kurt Busch DNQ'd. He was a champion in his rookie season, 2001. Kyle Busch he withdrew and did not qualify for some races his rookie year. I know this isn't really his official rookie year, but yeah, I think that doesn't really do much to Heim in terms of like, pretty much is this a setback? I don't think it is at all because past champions in this sport have had not qualified previously in their rookie seasons. Even Allmendinger, who's won a bunch of races too, and all of NASCAR, did not qualify a couple of races his rookie year back in like 2006, 2007. So yeah, it just sucks for Corey Heim because in practice he was doing like decently well. I thought. I think he was trying to look. He was 21st in practice. And then in qualifying, he was just a 10th off of Catherine Legg. He would have actually qualified better than Eric Jones, even with a damaged car. So it is what it is for him. I think he just regroups, goes out, probably wins a truck championship, probably gets in a 2311 car in the Cup Series in the next couple seasons if they win this lawsuit. So that's how I felt about that one. Just want to add that. Very happy for Catherine Legg, though. It's truly awesome to see her be able to qualify on speed and get it done. And Heim's the first DNQ since 2018, I believe, something like that, for a non-Daytona race or non-Talladega super speedway race. So I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, happy for Bilicki as well. That was the last thing I heard before everything went to crap on my end with Josh or what Tanner was talking about.
Indeed, it's going to be very interesting to see how Catherine Legg can manage this race. Now, one story we've been following is Daniel Suarez's announcement that he will not return. Tanner, you were on Grid tonight. You discussed the potential of the split between Pitbull and Trackhouse and how this could have been something related to both of them. Now, according to Suarez, speaking to the media and Bob Pockrass, he had known about this for the last 6 months. So, of course, this seems to align with the likelihood that Pitbull decision to split with Trackhouse before the Daytona 500. We said it seemed like Trackhouse was a bit off pace, especially that first half of the year. Now 2 of the 3 have a win. With all the news being public now, Matt, starting with you, can we expect better results, especially from Suarez? Because now everything that was behind is now forward and out.
I don't know, honestly. Suarez, I think, should be doing a lot better than he is, and he's not. I think I've been following Suarez too since he had like 8,000 followers. Some random suggested thing on Facebook for me back in before I think he was even in Xfinity and had a page. So it's kind of crazy to watch his career go like this, and now team that was created for him is kind of now getting rid of him essentially. And I wanted to note Parker Kligerman on his podcast, I think it's with Landon Castle or some driver like that. He had mentioned that driver contracts, usually if they're 1+1, you get a year, then you get that first 5-6 months, that February to June or July, is like when they pretty much are going to decide if they're going to re-sign you or not. And it sounds like Suarez didn't even really get that chance. And I think that sucks for him. That I think they've known this entire time that they were going to go down the Zillich road or going to go down some other road. But I think that was the first sign. I think we all said it in the Slack once Pitbull left. We knew that Suarez's time was eventually going to be done, unless he somehow won another race. But I think even if Suarez comes out and wins, he's obviously not returning. So I hope he pulls a Cole Custer, personally goes to Xfinity if he can and kicks butt, wins another Xfinity championship. Because I think if he gets back in the Toyota camp, he can show Joe Gibbs Racing what those drivers clearly aren't doing at the Xfinity level right now. They are putting on the absolute worst they've ever had, I think, season. So it'll be interesting. But, yeah, with the news being public, does that lift the weight off Suarez's shoulders? It might. I think it does, and it's kind of sad to see even Kenny Wallace put out a statement saying this looks like the happiest driver to leave a team with the way Suarez was talking about how he doesn't feel like he's included anymore with Chastain now being the sole number one driver over there. And it sucks. That's a team I think everyone loves to root for. You got Chastain, who's an 8th or 9th generation watermelon farmer, really worked his way, could race any car. I mean, from when he was younger, even drivers like I know some things. He was sleeping on Ron Hornaday Jr.'s couch, right? Ross Chastain, and they knew this kid could wheel a race car, and now he's up at this top level. He gets in anything, he wins. That's awesome. Shane Van Gisbergen's storyline too, coming from a different country. That's awesome. Suarez, another one coming from Mexico, being the first ever minority champion in the history of this sport. It's just a team I think fans love to root for, but now a key piece of that team is leaving, so it sucks. So better result for Suarez. I don't know. I truly can't answer that. It's a long way to say I don't know, so I apologize in advance. I guess I'm just happy my internet's working. But we'll see what happens with Suarez. I think if he could do a swap with Junior Motorsports and get in that 9 car, get in that 88 car next year, I think that would be awesome for him in the Xfinity level. Maybe do a couple cup races with Junior Motorsports if they ever put a car out there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if you are looking for a bit more of a detailed and extensive coverage of Daniel Suarez's departure, I definitely recommend hitting up that Grid Tonight episode from this past week. But just to kind of give you the short version of what I said, I feel like with a driver leaving a team and it's announced mid-season, that can really only go one of two ways. The driver is going to perform better and they end up getting a win, kind of like how Lewis Hamilton did last year with Mercedes in Formula One, or everything goes terribly. And based on the tenor of the season, I think you could assume that it would probably go in the latter direction for Suarez, but he seems like a driver that feels a little bit lighter this week. It feels like he's a bit unburdened, so to speak. And I feel like now that the news and the word is out, he's probably feeling a little bit lighter than he was the rest of the season. I made it known on Grid Tonight this week that I think had Suarez won Las Vegas, which he was leading with, I think, 13 laps to go before his car kind of chattered in turns 1 and 2 and allowed Josh Berry to get by. I don't think it would have mattered had he won that race, to be honest with you guys. So I think that this situation was always going to develop in this way, assuming Connor Zilic ended up continuing his torrid pace towards the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series this year, and that's exactly what's happened. So I think that Suarez probably ends the season without a win, though it does kind of pain me to say that. But at the same time, I could also see him going out and winning today. So we all know that Daniel Suarez's work ethic is practically unparalleled, and his positive attitude and his compartmentalization should allow for him to continue to compete. But at the end of the day, your equipment is kind of what carries you in the NASCAR Cup Series. And I don't know. I feel like as far as Trackhouse is concerned, I feel like we could be rushing Zilic up a little bit. I mean, the kid's only 18 years old. But at the same time, I mean, he's clearly putting things together faster than most 18-year-olds we've ever seen. So perhaps it's something we're just going to have to sit back and watch next year as he tries to figure it out at the Cup Series level. But I'm going to be honest, based on the comments that Daniel Suarez has made this weekend, I really don't have a whole lot of confidence in Matt Swiderski's competence as a Cup Series crew chief for you to just not listen to your driver for much of this year. It just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I'm going to be honest, it kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth about what Trackhouse is as a whole. So as for Suarez, like I said, it could mean better results are ahead now that he's kind of unburdened by having this news weighing on his shoulders. But I would say based on what we've seen this year results-wise, it's probably not going to develop in a way that the 99 team would hope.
A lot going on in Trackhouse. It's going to be very interesting as the developments continue on. Now, of course, as folks has joined us, we've been talking about Hendrick Motorsports. They're starting tours back from NASCAR. The number 4, 5, 9, 10, 23, 24, 47, 48, and 78 will all drop to the rear prior to the start of today's race due to unapproved adjustments, and the number 11 due to an engine change. Very interesting development. Ty Dillon in the number 10. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to impact him in the bracket. And of course, this racetrack been already quite chaotic first 2 years with the forecast of rain coming. Looks like we could have a chaotic third stage as well. But as we mentioned earlier, this may be the last race we're going to see in Chicago for the street course track. San Diego has been rumored to be the replacement. San Diego, of course, is going to fill in a key void for NASCAR, the Southern California area. They had no LA Clash this year. The image from Auto Club Speedway does not look promising for that promised short track that's coming. But for Chicago, if they do not return back at the street course, we do know there's Chicagoland Speedway. It's in Joliet, Illinois, but there's rumors of that potentially returning back. So Tanner, what do we think is the future of street racing and the Chicago market for NASCAR?
Let's tackle the first part of that first, the future of street racing in NASCAR. We've obviously been hearing a lot of things out of Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal. NASCAR is clearly late in their negotiations with some officials in San Diego about a potential street race as early as next year, which I would assume is going to be replacing the street racing, spot on the schedule that Chicago currently holds. We've also heard from Stern that Philadelphia is apparently in hot negotiations as well to possibly get a street race, which does concern me for fans of Pocono. At the same time, I feel like there are a lot of markets in the Pacific Northwest in particular that haven't seen Cup Series racing really at any point in their history. And I think that needs to change. I would have liked to have seen something develop closer to Seattle or even Portland, even though that they have like their own designated racetrack that hosts Xfinity and IndyCar. But I just feel like, I think that NASCAR has proven that they can hold a street race event. I think that they have proven themselves capable of doing that and hosting one that is exciting and entertaining. And they're, like Ben Kennedy in particular, he has definitely worked well with Chicago to create an engaging and exciting layout that somehow, despite the next-gen car's flaws, has produced some really good racing. With that said, as far as the future of racing in Chicago, I mean, Chicagoland seems like a great place to go now. I mean, what is it, 24 years on that pavement? It'll be 25 if we end up going next year. It's had, 6 years to lay dormant? And I feel like with this car and how it's handled the intermediate tracks, especially ones like Darlington and Homestead, places with high wear, I feel like this has the potential to make a really good race at Chicagoland. But at the same time, it's kind of a bit of an unknown with us not having gone back since 2019. Not any series really going back since 2019 outside of, I think, Supercross. So, yeah, I think that if we're looking at the future of racing in Chicago, if Chicagoland doesn't end up working out, I think a place to look at is possibly Soldier Field, where NASCAR has raced before back in the 1950s on a built racetrack that was able to be deconstructed. Obviously, the Bears have to have somewhere to play. But, yeah, I think that if NASCAR is still interested in doing this, like, Coliseum series that people like Joe Gibbs, as recently as this week, gave their vote of confidence towards, I feel like Soldier Field, based on the history NASCAR has with that particular venue, it would be really cool to see them kind of stay within that same downtown Chicago area and, try that out at some point. It would definitely have to be in the summer because literally any other time of year in Chicago, it's probably going to be too cold or too wet to possibly race there. But yeah, I think that if Chicagoland doesn't work out, bringing a street race back would be great. And also possibly running a Soldier Field inside the stadium would be pretty interesting as well. So that all of that to say, I'm really excited for the future of NASCAR's schedule. I have really enjoyed the 2 races that we've had at the street circuit, and I don't have any doubts that I'll be pretty excited and, locked into my couch, ready to watch today's race because I feel like it's going to put on another banger, and hopefully we get it dry this year instead of like the last 2 years where we've had nothing but wet conditions that have marred the race distance and put an early end to a race that could have gone the full distance had weather not gotten in the way.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get some dry racing in. Overall, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. Matthew Bro having some internet issues again. Overall, when it comes down to this race, I think we'll love to see. What I miss the most from kart is we have the most diverse schedule of street course, super speedways. IndyCar, they got a couple ovals, but they're missing the super speedway aspect. NASCAR could have that potential of having just a diverse schedule. If they even had 2 street course races, I think that would be happy. I know, again, it comes down to mostly primarily ovals. You want a good number of road courses, but overall it's going to be very interesting to see how it all occurs. Matthew, welcome back. When it comes to the future of street racing in the Chicago market, what are your thoughts for NASCAR?
Can you hear me at all? Are we good?
Yes, yep. You are surprisingly good this time.
I'm gonna find wherever Google Chrome is. I'm like, I don't understand. I've never had issues ever. We went like 2 years without any technical issues, and then this stuff's starting to happen again. I am so sorry. Can you guys give me a brief recap, if you don't mind, of like some of the places you said, so I can base my answer off that? I really do apologize for everyone listening.
I know Tanner mentioned some key markets we're not in, including the Pacific Northwest, like Seattle or maybe Portland when it comes to racing. But yeah, it's just something overall. We'd love to hear more your thoughts when it comes to, especially the future of street racing with the Cup Series. And does Chicagoland get that second opportunity?
Yeah, like I said earlier too, I love the idea of Chicagoland, but I don't love the idea of it replacing the Chicago Street Course. I think if these places can realize the economy boost they will get if they host an event like this, I think we're going to see more like San Diego pop up. And then even Adam Stern, I know I've heard that part where Tanner mentioned that with Philadelphia possibly. I think it'd be great. Portland would be awesome for the Cup Series. I really am mad that Formula E doesn't go there anymore. I know a lot. I think there's two that I want to really mention that I think would be great ideas. One is the Las Vegas. I know they're already there, but you kind of the southern west area. You have the Formula One already races there. Las Vegas Street Course, I think, would be really fun. They'd have to shorten it, obviously, but I think that could be a potential market changer. And one I really do want to mention, I think if NASCAR wants to expand like they did with Mexico and they want to go up to Canada, the NASCAR Canada Series in downtown Toronto races on a course. And I think that'd be a really perfect opportunity to expand your global in the Americas, but go up to Canada and have a street course there. And I believe IndyCar either holds it or used to hold a race up in one of those courses. So I think that would be awesome for NASCAR if they want to continue street course. Kill two birds with one stone there, for lack of better terminology. Move up to Canada, expand that audience as well, which you already have in the Canada Series. But move a race up there. The logistics will probably be a lot easier than it was to Mexico City. Plus, it's closer to most of the other tracks. And then, yeah, do that. I think then you get the international audience and you get the economy for Canada booming. And like Tanner mentioned, we're talking in the chat. I think that's the place I'm referring to, the exhibition place. I think that's what I'm thinking of, what I looked into. I didn't really do as much research into that, but I really think that was what I was referring to. If you guys can elaborate, maybe expand more on if you know more about exhibition place. But I think that would be cool. Bring it to Toronto, Ontario. And that'd be I would love it. I think it'd be a win-win-win for NASCAR. Not 2 wins, but I think 3 wins to be able to bring a street course racing to Canada.
Yeah, exhibition place, Toronto. That's a great place. There's another Canadian street course at the NASCAR Canadian Series also racing besides Toronto. But I just can't put my finger onto it. I think it's somewhere in...
Is it Edmonton?
Might be Edmonton.
I know that IndyCar used to do an Edmonton race, I feel like. So that sounds right, but I could be completely talking out of my rear end here. So...
yeah, overall, I mean, there are plenty of potential opportunities when you look at some of the tracks overall when it comes to whether it's in Canada, United States, Mexico. I think everyone is just seeing how when it comes to these track races in the city, you bring the action closer to the fans. New experience, new fans that happen to be in the area. It just seems to be a win-win-win for everybody. Speaking about win-win-win for everybody, it's time for everyone's favorite game or least favorite game, depending on where you are in the standings. Pick a winner. We encourage all our viewers in the chat room comment with who you think is going to win the NASCAR Cup Series race at Chicago and also the NTT IndyCar Series race at Mid-Ohio. That's about to get underway. Alex Palou on the poll for that. So I think I got a good idea where everyone's going to go when it comes to pick a winner. And, of course, if your name's not on the leaderboard, don't worry because we have a second page. We're up to 29 people on the pick a winner leaderboard. Plenty of space. We still have over 100 events this year. So you get on a hot streak, you could really climb yourself up the rankings. That's what we saw. One of our regulars, Denver, have gone from the second page. Denver is now up to 15th place. So plenty of time to pick a winner. Tanner, starting with you, you lost a little bit of ground lately to Matt and Kobe, who has retaken the lead of pick a winner. So starting with you, Tanner, who's going to win the NASCAR Cup Series race at Chicago Street Course?
First thing I want to say is that I'm so glad that my prediction that Max Verstappen, if he fell behind first place, would start cussing, and in fact, he did do that today. So, just wanted to call out that I did call that ahead of time, but I'm hoping to call this winner ahead of time, Shane Van Gisbergen, for the NASCAR Cup Series, for all the reasons that we've spent at least half of this episode talking about.
For me, I blew it last week. I told you guys I was going to say Chase Elliott, but then I switched it at the last second. This week, I want to say Ty Gibbs again, but I'm going to keep Shane Van Gisbergen solely because that's why. I don't need to explain
that. It's unanimous. Shane Van Gisbergen, the only way he's not going to win it is if something's wrong with that car or he gets caught up in somebody else's trouble like last year. With that said, Mid-Ohio is hosting the NTT IndyCar Series. Alex Palou, who has won most of the races, starting first on the pole. The only other driver to win, Kyle Kirkwood, 7th. But both of them are on alternate tires. We've seen first lap cautions at Mid-Ohio. So I wouldn't exactly count him out, but the way Alex Palou is looking, Tanner, who do you think is going to win at Mid-Ohio for the NTT IndyCar Series?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Open AI car, unfortunately. I think that Alex Palou looked to take the win last year, but unfortunately he was stymied by the wrath of Pato O'Ward, and I don't think that Pato will be in his way this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if another McLaren, Pato's teammate Christian Lundgaard, does put up a good fight today. So while I'm going with Palou, look out for Lundgaard. I think that he might be able to get his first win with the Papaya team this year.
Yeah, I think he makes a good point. I think if anyone's going to dethrone Palou or Kirkwood, it'd be Lundgaard. However, I'm still going to pick the greatest race car driver in the world. I think Alex Palou is going to win again.
He leads the grid ranking for a reason. He's the number one driver right now. Alex Palou, it's Pullover, I think, especially the championship. He got it. And of course, earlier today we had Formula One. We're going to have our Grid Life wrap up approximately 90 minutes after the conclusion of the NASCAR Cup Series race at Chicago. And then Grid Encore on Monday, Wednesday Grid tonight. And we'll do this all over again next weekend. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin Show, Mark, Ron, David, and Matthew, for investing in us each and every month. And don't forget, across social media, Grid Network TV, gridnetworktv.com for our latest articles. I know Matthew Bro is going to be watching the Chicago race for that as well. And of course, we have the Grid Ranking, Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Pick a Winner. Use those hashtags to follow us across social media every week. For Tanner and Matt, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's show. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.